What's up, y'all? As soon as I knew that I needed to do this What's Up, Y'all, I immediately started feeling teary-eyed and tender, and I can feel the texture of fear inside of me. And it's me, allowing myself to drop into the deep well of grief that is saturating the world right now for a multitude of reasons, right? There is war happening in so many places. There's devastation happening in so many places. There's so much pain, so much activation. And, and I had the honor this week of sitting with Bell Hooks' archive and papers, and in meeting people who were part of her and being part of the lecture series for her center, and visiting her institute, and I knew that there was a conversation that she and I were supposed to have, and I didn't know what it was for, because initially I thought I was coming here to do writing on a memoir project that is currently paused. And so when I got here, I was like, I don't know why I'm staying in Kentucky so long. And I think in part I'm staying here, one, because there was indeed a conversation to have with Belle that was going to help inform this conversation that I'm going to have with you all right now. I don't have to tell you that I think it's obvious, at least in my work, I am not Jewish and I am not Palestinian. I am, however, a person who knows ancestrally, genealogically, and personally, like on this timeline, in this life, the experience of displacement and genocide. I know something about what it means to want home, to have home taken, to be taken from home, to be forced from home, to be threatened with death, to have the people that you love be killed. These are things I know personally. And so I also know something about what it means to move from trauma, to make decisions and choices and expectations from the motivation of one's pain and one's grief that is so profoundly unbearable as to present itself as rage and as anger. And I know what it is to be so caught in a cycle of my own trauma that it requires the violence of life to shake me out of the illusion. And I can't help but see the parallels in the experience that we're seeing play out in Israel and Palestine. I can't help but see the parallels between two people who have histories of displacement, two people who have histories of genocide, two people who have a deep and profound longing for home and a history of being extracted from that home in the most heinous and violent ways. And I can see the trauma loop that is the experience of the entire arc of history inside of a moment, inside of another moment, inside of another moment, I can see the trauma on repeat. And I know it so well because I lived it in my own life. I lived the desire of wanting home so deeply and so profoundly that I was willing to make it in any place at any cost, because I was convinced that home meant safety. And that the thing that I was trying to protect, this experience of connection and a desire for peace, this thing I was trying to create at any cost, could only ever cost me the thing I was most desperate for. The any cost was safety and peace, because it could not be made from the illusion of my pain. That my desire to have home and place at any cost was always going to cost me my home and my peace. It was going to create the condition of never experiencing what it was that I thought home was going to be. And I see it playing out. And the only thing that ultimately saved me was my willingness to relinquish the illusion, the illusory story that I had of home. The idea that home was some physical location that had to be obtained and protected and walled off from others, and that I had to assert myself to have it, and that I needed to manipulate and strategize to keep it, and that I needed to retaliate against those who came against it. It wasn't until I was able, not able is not the right, it wasn't until life blew that illusion up and I was left with nothing that I thought about home, like that none of the signifiers that lived inside of home felt true anymore, that I could actually begin the question of what is actual peace and safety. What is true peace and safety? It is not bordered. We are called to care for and steward land. We are not called to own it. Home is not a thing that we own. Home is the experience of belonging and connection, first to ourselves and then to the collective. And every story that we construct that tries to make home a physical place that we must protect at all cost, the cost will always be the thing it is that we thought home was supposed to provide: peace and safety. I see these two peoples in this endless fucking war This war about wanting home. This war about deciding that home is a location. This war about not healing the violences that have happened to us, and then continuing to move from the wound. And yes, there are structural and systemic differences in power that must be named. There are political violences that must be named. But beyond all of those things, because guess what systems are made up of, y'all? Humans. Fucking people. Fucking wounded fucking people playing out their wounds to the extent, to the level of society. But at its core, the question is, will we, humans, continue to live out our trauma and live out our pain, live out our stories of disconnection, and continue to externalize what can only be handled internally and communally, until we dissolve the illusion that home is some external place given to us by nationality, given to us by race, given to us by creed, given to us by color. And continue and stop trying to avenge the experiences of harm that happen in that place. We will stay in this loop. I stayed in my loop. I stayed in my wound of home for most of my life. And I never had it. Home never arrived because it was never a place outside of me. We cannot make home in other people. We cannot make home in physical land spaces. And we are living in a time where climate catastrophe is about to show us better than it can tell us that we have to create new definitions of home, and that we will have to release the old definitions or they will be violently ripped from us. And that is the moment that we are in right now. And my invitation is to find new pathways to the experience of home. Pathways that are not rooted in imperialistic, colonial, vengeance-based hatred. And anger, masking what is actually grief. What is actually, can we mourn what there is to be mourned so that we can be free to move from the place of rage, to move from the place of protectionism, to move away from the place of externalized safety and peace. We won't find it there. We've never found it there, y'all. In all of history, we've never found it there. There has to be a new definition of home. One that has space and room for all of existence, or none of existence will make it. And I know that because, like I said, I'm not Jewish nor am I Palestinian. But I know something about what it means to have to give up home. and find a new definition for it. One that's more expansive than anything that I had before. I am praying for peace. I am praying for love. I am praying that we are transformed